Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of Becoming Bob. I'm Alex, and in this episode I'll be painting along with episode 9 of The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross. Just starting out with a little cad yellow, mixing it with some permanent red there to make a nice orange color. And just going in here up in the sky, in an area by the sun there. In this episode I'm painting a sunset, looking out over the ocean from the beach. Starting out like we usually do, putting some colors up in the sky. Using my 1-inch brush, mixing some crimson in with some titanium white. Just going in to make a nice pink color, circling the sun. Some blue up there to make more of a purple color. And for that one, I'll start out in the corners and kind of come in from the outside so that the darker places are on the outside of the painting. It'll make for a nicer transition into the pink when I go to blend it. Just using those crisscross strokes there. It's a little bit easier to do with a 1-inch brush than it is with a 2-inch brush. Sometimes you start out with a 2-inch brush. And I'm kind of pulling it down there to add some reflection to the water that I'll be putting in here in just a minute. Speaking of the 2-inch brush, I've got it there. It's a dry 2-inch brush that I'm going in and blending it in. I forgot to mention that with this canvas I was starting out, of course, with a thin layer of liquid white. Picking a few brush hairs off of there. The brushes I use are all Bob Ross brand natural bristles. And those come off a lot, but you can just pick them right off the canvas. Pick them off there. Giving everything a nice blending back and forth. Really dark blue color going in at the bottom there. Try and add some water in. I had spent a lot of time blending the sky to try and make it look good, but I'd fallen kind of behind where Bob was in the painting at this point. So I was kind of rushing to catch up, and because of that, my water came in at kind of funky angles there, and I just don't like the way that it ended up looking. I was also really rushing to get paint on the brush there, and I picked up some crimson and ended up down in the water, which looked really streaky and messy. I don't know. I wish I had taken just a little bit more time there. But it is kind of hard to keep up with Bob, and I'm still just learning. Now with my 1-inch brush loaded up with paint there, going in and just making a disc for the sun, clearing off the excess that I can with my palette knife, and then going in with a dry 2-inch brush, blend everything back in together to really give the effect of the sun peeking through some kind of haze there. Now I'm switching out from my fan brush, mixing some Van Dyke brown in with my Prussian blue and some titanium white. Make kind of a dark gray color. Just kind of messing that around up in the sky there to form some dark clouds in front of the sun there. Not so much that it blocks them. But enough that it adds some interest to the sky. Really like making clouds with this technique. I think that the cloud shapes you can get with the fan brush really have a natural look to them. Well, as you can see, I'm kind of rushing to keep up with Bob. Cleaning that brush off now, so that I can mix up more of a yellow color. Yellowish orange color. Which I'll then go in and add some highlights to those clouds. Really add a three-dimensional effect to them. Just trying to work in layers. Every layer you add, it pushes the other layers back further into the painting and adds more depth. Adding a little bit more red to orange it up some more. Of course, I want to add the highlights on the side of the clouds that would be facing the sun. Of course, on this one up at the top means I add the highlights to the bottom parts. And really flesh those clouds out. I'm just switching back to that dry 2-inch blender and swirling it in, fluffing those clouds up. Trying to be as light as I can because you don't want to mess it up too much and just completely lose the clouds. Like a muddy mess up there in the sky. Real gently going back and forth. Trying to bring the sky down to meet the water. Now making an even darker kind of gray color. Brownish gray. Going in to add some real thin, straggly clouds way off in the distance. This was definitely not one of my favorite paintings that I've done. I'm not super pleased with how it turned out, and I think a lot of that was my attitude going into it. I think that I wasn't a huge fan of the painting, that I saw before actually doing it, and I think that affected how mine turned out. Just something about the colors and, I don't know, being my first seascape and everything. Went in and getting some liquid white there. My fan brush. Now, trying to come in lightly at an angle without having too much paint transfer, and add some sun rays coming through the clouds. It's not an easy effect. I don't think I did a horrible job, but I think that one's going to take some practice. Now with that fan brush, coming in and adding a horizon line way off in the distance along the edge of the ocean there. And then just kind of coming up closer in towards the foreground and adding in little waves here and there to make the ocean seem more alive. Get some motion, some depth. Adding in a big wave here and a darker bit to kind of be underneath the curl. Just trying to keep my brush clean and switch back and forth between dark colors and light. Just kind of trying to add in some foam at the top of the wave there. Bring it swooping down in the front and have it crashing down a little bit. And this isn't meant to be an exceptionally angry ocean, just, you know, some nice waves out there. Trying to keep that brush clean. And I feel like part of my issue here was that the paint was going on too thick. Like the little lines I was putting on were a lot thicker than I was trying to. I think I need to try and focus, especially with the fan brush, on loading it up with paint so that it pulls it to a tip so that I can make a lot thinner, finer lines. I think that'll help with some of the effect. I'm picking up some of the sap green and alizarin crimson there and mixing those together to make a brownish color. Now I'm going to go in and start putting in some land finally. I'm going to start with some beach grass going up, forming the top of a dune there. Trying to achieve the effect of, you know, kind of clumps of grass along the beachfront. Now the 2-inch brush coming in to try and make a little darker area where the water will be kind of coming in, kind of an inlet there. Kind of lost focus on the camera. Give it a second, it comes back. I'm mixing up some kind of grayish brown color there, which will be my sand. I'm applying it the same way I would if I was making a mountain. And going with the slope of the land. Fairly evenly, but not too uniformly. Trying to get it all the way to the edge. Most of that blue. We're trying to work pretty fast here. Once again, I'm falling behind Bob. Just adding some more clumps of grass in there. Now just adding some sand to the other slope. Once again, just trying to go along with the contour of the land, preserving the water in between the two places there. Now going in with my 2-inch brush to kind of pull down and add some reflection to that water. Really give it a sheen. Adding more sand, adding in a few more layers. Just trying to cover up the blue. And give it a realistic interaction with the water there. Just bringing it together and joining my two land masses. Now with some liquid white going in to kind of add that water line. I'm just switching back to add in some more grass. Adding in more layers and giving the beach a little bit more depth and a little bit more slope and contour. I'm just getting some straight Van Dyke brown there. And going in, and I'm going to add a little fence here. Just going to make a series of posts to start out. This is an old fence, so it's one that's been there a long time, and the posts are weathered and they're not even. Most of them aren't standing up straight anymore. That's good. I don't think I would be able to paint a very realistic looking fence if it wasn't, one that was completely falling apart. Once again, I don't love this painting. I'm not real super pleased with how it turned out, but I did enjoy some aspects of it, and painting these fence posts was one part that I really enjoyed, and I tried to take my time with it, as much as I could without falling too far behind where Bob was. Because it's fun, it adds a lot of character to the painting, and you can really add a lot of your own personality with these kind of detailed parts. Same with the clouds. I like working on the clouds because, there's no way to copy that exactly. It's going to end up unique no matter what you do. And that's one of the things that I really like about this painting. these paintings, I guess you could say. Got kind of a lighter gray color, just adding some highlights to my fence posts, making them look more three-dimensional. And now just adding a wire to connect them all together. It's an old scraggly wire. I'm trying to add another one there that's on the opposite side of the posts. Just cutting in a place between the posts, but not through them. And just a little bit more highlight on top. Now picking up some more brown there. I'm going to go in on the other side of the painting here. We're going to add in an old tree. Starting out with the trunk there. This isn't a humongous tree, but trees on beaches don't usually grow very large. Switching out for the script liner brush, picking up some yellow and some brownish, greenish color to add highlights in along the side of the trunk there. Give them a nice rounded effect. Then getting a little bit of linseed oil there. And mixing it with some Van Dyke brown. So that I can paint on some nice curving limbs. Actually, at this point when I was painting it, I couldn't remember if this was supposed to be a living tree or a dead tree. I was thinking it was going to be a dead tree, but it's not. I'll add some leaves here in just a second. The 1-inch brush there, picking up some green and crimson. Yeah, I didn't like the colors in this painting. I felt like this reddish, maroonish brown that I put on the trees and the purple of the sky and pink of the sky really clashed. I felt like the clouds really ended up with a lot of a green tint to them. You know, my ocean ended up with red streaks in it, kind of purpley parts to it that, you know, I just didn't love it. Adding highlights in, lighter yellow and green. Adding some liquid white. This is one of those times when I need to take more time to do it well, because when I mix in that liquid white, sometimes I don't mix it in thoroughly. Then when I put the highlights on trees like this, I end up with white parts to it, which, you know, just doesn't look good. some more of that scrub color. Adding some more layers. Trying to give the painting some more depth. Kind of pull everything together. Switching back to the script liner brush. And I usually, when I use that, he has you use linseed oil to mix with the paint that you're going to use to really thin it out. So it's a lot more like an ink. That allows it to go on a lot thinner and a lot smoother. Also, it doesn't mush it through whatever it is you're painting over it. You know, it adds that on top of it. If you did it with a thick paint, it would just cut right through, and it just wouldn't look good. You wouldn't achieve the effect you're going for. Adding in all those sticks and taller grasses you see out on the beach. Add some more life. Because I didn't love this painting, I think it affected how long it took me to get this episode, edited and put out. If it's a painting I love and want to show the world, it's something that I feel a lot more motivated to do. Now I'm just adding my signature there to the bottom corner. Some nice thin permanent red. And finishing this one up. Thanks for watching episode 9 of Becoming Bob. Once again, I'm Alex, and if you like this channel, subscribe and find me on Facebook. Have a great day.